Good morning. Monday, July 18th, Luke chapter 14, as Luke is continuing to give his detailed account of the life of Jesus and begins his chapter with another healing on the Sabbath, which seems to, Jesus is seeming to intentionally cause some confrontation with the lawyers and the Pharisees, and so we see this undercurrent continuing to brew. And then we have a couple stories, and the word that jumps out over and over in these next, through the end of really verse 24, is the word invited. That those who were invited, you were invited by someone. You were invited by him. You were invited over and over and over. And I think, where Luke is trying to stress that we have been invited by God to partake. And the first section in verse 10 talks about humility, and that we shouldn't seek to sit at the highest place, but maybe the lowest, and be asked to move up. And everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exhausted. And again, this upside down nature of the kingdom of God, that it isn't how man looks at things, but God looks at things differently. And then if you're hosting and inviting, you need to invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and then you will be blessed. So this continued focus on the downtrodden. And then we have this, a banquet is happening, and they invited many. And people make excuses. One saying, I bought a field, I need to go see it. Another says, I have a yoke of oxen, I need to go examine them. Another says, I married a wife, and I cannot come. So I think Jesus is stressing priorities, that we've all been invited now to be part of the kingdom of God, and not to have excuses, not to we need to make this kingdom a priority. And we see that continued theme on in verse 25 that talks about the cost of discipleship, and it's some really hard teaching. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And I think, as I've thought through this and struggled through this part, verse 33, any of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. I think Jesus is using hyperbole here. And I don't think he totally means you have to hate your parents, your wife, your children, yourself to be a disciple. I think he's just stressing that this is a big deal, that this should take being a disciple and growing in your discipleship should be your priority. It should be more important than your parents, more important than your family, even more important than your life. And it's similar when Jesus says that if your eye causes you to sin, to poke it out. I don't think Jesus means to poke it out. I think in that case he's using hyperbole to show that sin is a huge deal. And I think it's the same way here with discipleship. To be a disciple of Jesus is a huge, huge deal. And it should be a priority over everything else. We've been invited to be Jesus' disciples. And as such, we need to have humility. We need to include others, especially those on the outskirts of society, the poor, the lame, the blind, the crippled. And it must be our priority. So a good reminder of the importance of being a disciple of Jesus and being a follower of Jesus. So Tomorrow we'll get into Luke chapter 15 that deals with the lost. And Jesus' priority on the lost. So I would love to hear what you're learning as you're going through Luke, and let me know if you have questions or what you're learning, and pray God is blessing you as you read and go through His Word. See you tomorrow.